In today's video, I'm going to talk to you about some advice that I wished I would have got a long time ago. Some advice that's so important that it would have literally cut years off my learning process if I'd have learned it. And some of the advice is going to be quite triggering. In fact, I don't even really know how to kind of deliver this video in like a sync way. So this is like my 6th to 7th time pressing record and then restarting the video and then pressing record again, but whatever, right? And I hope that, just for a second, you take in exactly what I'm saying to you in this video. Like, just pretend it's fact, just for the duration of the video, just so you can look deep enough in yourself to try and help yourself. And if just one person can do this watching this video, I'll be happy. So to set the stage on what the actual advice is that I wish I'd have received, I want to start off by saying our brains have all these psychological processes in place to prevent us from feeling pain. All these defense mechanisms, right? One of these defense mechanisms is psychological denial. It's an actual cognitive bias, which means that sometimes when we experience a reality which is too painful for ourselves, or we experience something where our ego gets attacked, right? Our brains just avoid the true reality. It just goes to start denying it. It goes into denial, right? So with that said, my point for this video is that most people I know, including myself, right, all walk around with some degree of denial. I've worked with big teams who've got denial in them. I work with individuals who've got denial. My family, my friends, we're all denying something, the true objective reality. And there's a few reasons for this, but also one of the big reasons is that, like, society in today's age, it teaches you that it's okay to, be average. It's okay to not perform as well. It's okay to stay in your nice comfort zone. It's okay to do all these things. And as a consequence, what you would think is that this actually makes people happy, but from what I've seen, it actually prevents their growth, and it actually takes away life satisfaction from them as well. There's plenty of times where this has happened in my life as well. I'm going to tell you a bit of a story about one specific time where it happened to me, and it was so painful that I could not ignore it anymore. And like, the pain actually caused me to snap out of the reality, right? Because I let the pain sit with me. So I was doing a bunch of sales calls. This is a good few years ago now. And I sucked at sales. I sucked at sales. Like, I could not close anyone. I had like 20 no's in a row. It was taking me all this time to actually generate the lead. And then when the lead came in, I could not sell at all. And I had like a bunch of issues, the reason why I couldn't sell, but that's not the point of this, right? The point of this is, I didn't think I was that bad at sales. I thought I was coming up either against like the wrong prospect, I was getting unlucky, etc., etc., etc. I was making all these excuses. Even me, who knows like loads about psychology, I was making all these excuses. Your brain tricks you in to basically being more comfortable, right? And the more comfortable false reality is that I'm actually quite good at sales, I'm just getting unlucky, right? See how this works? But what was actually happening was I sucked at sales, and I was not acknowledging that I needed help with sales. So I wasn't getting any help with sales. And I remember I was speaking to this guy, and he was super, super interesting. This was the very time which snapped me out of this false reality. Speaking to this guy, he was like, I'm so interested in doing your program. I've followed you for a little while. I think you're really good. I want to work with you. So I told him the price and everything, and he was like, oh, it's not a bad price. I need to think about it. And I was like, no worries, no worries. And he was like, I've got something coming up in the next few days, but can we get back in touch in 2 weeks' time? I was like, yeah, no worries. So 2 weeks passes. I think I'm going to close this sale, right? I phone this guy back up, and I'm like, so how's it going? Let's talk about business. And he's like super happy to see me. And I was like, so do you want to do this? And he was like, no, sorry, I can't do this. I was like, why not? He was like, I've just actually went and bought this other program. And as it turns out, he went and bought, in those 2 weeks, he went and bought one of my competitors' programs. He bought one of my competitors' programs because he was ready to buy. I didn't recognize it. And he like made a choice on someone else, right? He just needed me to give him a quick push over the edge on the first initial sales call. And this was like 21 in a row that I hadn't made. 21 sales calls in a row that I hadn't made. I remember the friggin' like the world just went quiet around me. Like as soon as he told that, I came off that call. I said to my girlfriend, I'm gonna have to go out for a walk, right? And I went out for a walk, and all the way around the walk, I beat myself up. I beat myself up like never before. I was like, you suck. You are, you're terrible at this. You need to get better at this. If you don't master this, you're just going to have the same result again and again and again. And it was the first time I got really real with myself. I got really real with myself. I ripped off the plaster and I looked at the wound and I was like, this needs help, right? And basically the next like 3 weeks, I immersed myself in Q&A calls with coaches. I read sales books. I watched sales demonstrations again and again and again and again and again. I just watched it. And then the very next month, my business had its first 5-figure month, right? So just had this dry streak, and then I just had this 5-figure month. And you can say, it's lucky and all this. But what I found is the times that you get very real with yourself, are the times where like the biggest growth comes about. And I only had this growth because I acknowledged the true pain. When you acknowledge the true pain, you are forced to look at the problem, right? And in today's society, we are shielded from pain at like every turn. Everyone teaches you it's okay to not be good enough. Everyone teaches you that it's okay to be average. We get participation medals in frigging races. We give them to our kids, right? But the actual research and science shows that we need pain. As humans, we need pain to move forward. We need pain and reward. Freud actually talks about this, right? I know Freud is a little bit controversial for some people, but he got a lot of things right. And humans need pain and reward to basically get some movement. And the pain only comes from being super honest with yourself. I was listening to a David Goggins podcast the other week, and if you don't know who David Goggins is, he is a person who was like this super unmotivated individual who had like nothing going for him, and one day he just decided to turn his life around. He lost like 100 pounds in 3 months. He became a Navy SEAL, a motivational speaker. He ran ultra marathons, right? When he hadn't ever even ran like over 2-3 miles before. Ultra marathons are can be anywhere from like 26 to 200 miles, right? Running, right? And he was just like, I'm going to change myself by changing my brain. And the only way I can change my brain is getting real honest with myself. And he said that he would do this technique of basically, he's called it the accountability mirror. He would go into the bathroom, he would look at himself in the mirror, and he said he would just get very real with himself. He would, almost like a coach, tell himself exactly what he needs to hear, right? And I thought that was such an interesting technique because anytime I've had like a massive leap forward, I have always done the same, except not really, not in like a mirror, not literally in like a mirror, but like I've done it in different ways, and I've got very real with myself when I felt the pain. And people like me, I have very high pain tolerance, so I need like a lot of pain to actually get me moving. You might be like that as well. I don't know where that comes from. Maybe it's like a childhood thing or something, but I actually need like a lot of pain to break the chains around me. But I see all the time, people just do not like even attempt to break the chains. They just fall into this weird state of being in denial and not actually getting real with themselves and like how happy they are and like if things are actually going well. And you see this like in breakups, right? When a couple actually break up, like things are going well and then they started not going well and then they break up, right? One person always ends up inevitably heartbroken and the other person always ends up inevitably a bit better off. At least what I think. It's usually a little bit uneven, right? And what happens is if you look at what happens, and this happens in like most couples that break up, what the person with the pain goes on this like crazy journey afterwards of where they improve themselves. They get all fit, they get in shape, they make themselves look a lot better, right? And it's to make themselves feel better, but also it's because they were only able to change themselves with serious pain, right? And the ironic thing is, if they didn't need that pain to change themselves and they just kept maintaining in like the relationship, or improved themselves in the relationship, they'd probably never have broken up, right? But they needed the pain to break the chains, right? You see it in people who leave their job. They have reached a point where they literally, and it's usually the straw that's broken the camel's back. They've reached a point where they literally cannot tolerate it anymore, and then they stop job hunting. They start job hunting like absolute crazy. I remember a few years ago as well, I've always done like combat sports. I used to do freestyle, kickboxing / karate when I was a kid, boxing after that, then MMA, kickboxing. I was always like a fit guy, but I never used to do like weights and bulk or anything like that. And if you're going to do weights and put on muscle, you need to eat in like a bulk state. You need to be eating in excess of your maintenance of calories, so a bit more each day. I never used to do that, so I never used to really put on muscle. And when I used to look in the mirror when I was in my early 20s, even though I was like super fit, I used to look in the mirror and I used to see myself like, yeah, I look pretty good, man. I look athletic, I look good. But I hadn't really put on too much muscle because I'd been doing just like combat sports and not been eating in like a surplus of calories. And I remember once I was in denial looking in the mirror. I thought I looked good. I thought I looked like beach body fit, right? And I remember going on holiday with my girlfriend, and she took a photo while I think I was like, I was doing some sort of activity, but basically it was a hot summer holiday, and I only had like shorts on. I didn't have my top on. And I looked at the photo afterwards and I was like shocked. I expected to see like this ripped physique where it was very obvious I worked out. And instead what I saw was a guy, just a regular looking body on a guy. And that right there was, again, the objective reality which got showed to me. And I was like, I don't look like that at all. Like in my head, what I think's going on is completely wrong from what's actually going on. And that caused me pain to actually then go and how do I actually put on muscle? How do I actually look a lot better? How do I actually feel a lot better about like my body and that? And so like it sent me down a giant path, and every time I get a little bit lazy, I show myself a little bit more pain. Very, very interesting stuff about like how that can actually push you towards hitting more goals. And there's a great author, his name's Peter Drucker. He's like a business guy. He's written a great book called Managing Oneself. And he basically says that it's very, very hard for humans to tell objectively how well we are doing. Because if you ask ourselves, like, how do you think that went? How do you think you are today? The research actually shows, evolutionary psychologist research actually shows that we think we are a little bit better than what we actually are, right? So it's very hard for us actually to give a non-biased answer. We cannot see objectively. And he was saying that the only way for you to determine what you are actually good at is to basically look at like the 12 months previous and to judge the actual feedback. So in business, I know this is a business channel, so in business, if you've jumped on 20 sales calls in a row and not closed anyone, you probably aren't very good at sales. The numbers don't lie. If you are not managing to generate any sort of like call bookings or anything like that, you're probably not got a very good process for it, right? You probably have areas to improve on here. If you have like no friends at all, like no one's talking to you, and I don't want to sound super mean with this, but like you probably should be taking some steps to learn a bit more about social dynamics, whether it's reading, a few books, whether it's taking yourself to some social clubs or something like that, where it's putting yourself in group situations. You probably should be doing something like this. because the numbers don't lie. And, you know, a lot of people, they come to me about the business. I'll speak to them over the phone and they'll be like, oh, you know, I think I should be doing this. I think this is going well. I think this is going well. And like 80% of the time, I'd say, probably a bit higher, they have like no idea what they're talking about. And I don't mean to say that in a big way. It's just because I can look objectively in their situation. They think, well, I think this is going well. I'm going to do this well. I was on this sales call with this woman a few weeks ago, and she was like, I was like, oh, you need to do A, B, and C. And she was like, no, I don't feel like A or B is, I don't feel like A or B is a priority. I think I just need to do C. And I was like, well, I think you need to do A, B, and C. She was like, no, can you just help me with C, please? And I was like, look, I had to be really honest with her. I was like, but it's hard, it's very hard to break people out of that like state. I was like, are you achieving X, Y, and Z? She was like, no. And I was like, well, from my experience of years in this, it's because you're not doing A, B, and C. You think A and B are good enough. They're not, right? They're really not. Like, the feedback tells you. Numbers don't lie, man. So you must always, like, be very, very real with yourself. It's about being really real with yourself. Like, film yourself, take yourself to a mirror, or just go out on a walk and think deeply to yourself. What's not working? Be real with yourself, right? Be actually real with yourself. What are you unhappy with? Start at the top of the tree, like the leaves around the tree. What don't you like at the moment? What's not going well? Why don't you think it's going well? Go a little bit down the branches, right? What do you think the root cause of that is? What does the objective reality tell you about this? What is not working for you right now? What do you need to buck up at? What do you need to get your skill set up at? What do you need to take responsibility for, right? All these big questions you should be asking yourself. And when I started to really integrate some of these areas into my life, I was like, wow, it's powerful stuff, man. Like, I can improve in so many areas now, but the old Rob cannot improve on the old areas because he's just in denial. He doesn't know what's even going wrong. He's just not being honest with himself at all, right? Crazy situation, but I really hope, like, it's a bit of a raw talk today, you know, it's very unedited, we're not doing anything too big here, but I hope that you can take something away from this video, because being in denial is actually causing you more pain over the longer term than actively, you know, looking at it and dealing with it. And that's something very important. It's actively working against you and will hurt you more in the long term if you don't deal with these things. Okay, so start dealing with it. Start today. If you have to replay this video and go and write down the steps I've listed out, go and write down exactly what you're not happy with, and then work out, like, how is it your fault? Always take the responsibility. What can you be doing better? Stop putting things onto the external, you know, the external world. Try and work on your internal locus of control, all right? So I hope you enjoyed this video. I know this isn't a viral topic or anything like this, but in a few years' time, hopefully some people have seen this video and hopefully it's helped them. That's what I'm hoping. So hope you enjoyed this video. Take care. See you in the next one.